Hello. So today is, what is today? Today's July 20th, and this is your reading. I won't use your name to keep it anonymous. And first of all, let me review your question. So you want a reading about your love life. You haven't been in a relationship for nearly 2 decades. You're currently single. You're not dating right now. There's someone you dated around 3 years ago, but who is and who's still interested in you, but not for the reasons you think. I wasn't clear on that. And then there's another man that you know, having known for many years, who's interested. And I'm not going to use their names. And you just know you've been single so long, and every time you put your heart out there, it's a disappointment. You'd like to know if you're looking for the one, and you want to know if you have met him, or if he still has to cross your path, or if it will even ever happen. So, okay, let's get going. So the cards that you picked in this bag are they're the Smith-Waite Tarot Deck Borderless Edition, in case you are curious. And then I had asked you to pick amongst some choices, and you picked nature, so I'm using a nature oracle. So I drew both of these cards with the 9-digit number that you gave me, and I like to use the oracle card to set the tone for the reading. So let's see what you drew here. This is you. Oh, this is my favorite tree. You got redwood. So ancient teachings is the theme for the reading. So I think there'll be some wisdom here that's sort of ancient, maybe a universal truth. And then this card I usually like to save to the end. I usually like to use it to sum up the reading, or sometimes I think it's a good guide for you. So we'll look at this one at the very end. So in the meantime, I'm going to draw 3 cards for you to lay a foundation. One, 2, and 3. So let's just kind of look at the basics here. Okay. So I would say this is the 10 of Swords. This is 10 is sort of the 10 is when the energy of the suit comes to an excess, and swords are all about the mind. And so when thought and reason and mind and thinking become completely excessive, that's when anxiety arises in my mind. So the 10 of Swords for me is being overwhelmed mentally, being completely mentally exhausted, and also mentally exhausted and mentally overwhelmed would be another way I might want to say it. And you've just been thinking about things for a long time. The good news is that if you look in the background of the card, there's a sunset or a sunrise. A sunset means something's coming to a close. A sunrise means a new beginning. So it's all about a cycle. So, looks like you're going to be coming out of this period though, right? Seems like you've been thinking about this for a long time. Now, the King of Wands, kings are authoritative. They have mastery over their suit. Wands are the suit of fire, and this has to do with passion and will, like the fire inside of you. So here, in the present moment, the King of Wands is really advising you to take a look at where your fire and passion are, to look at your will, to look at what you really want, and to master it the way a king would. Kings are masculine authorities, so it's sort of a yang energy. It's they give orders and commands and things like that, so they get things done. So where can you get this done? Now, the fact that it was reversed, however, that means it's going to be difficult. For me, reversals mean difficulty, and that it could take a long time. So this will definitely take some effort here on your part. But in the future here, we have the Six of Pentacles. So Pentacles are about the material world. They're about being grounded. They're about providing for yourself. Like they're about money, but money in terms of what it enables you to do, like to take care of yourself. So about having a stable home, about feeding yourself, clothing yourself, the basic needs in life. This is the card of generosity. So this is the card about being generous. So in a romantic reading, I would say that either you need to, maybe in your future, you need to find someone who's generous, and I would not say generous with their money. I would say generous of heart, generous in their mind, a person who's giving. So if you, well, like the kind of person who offers to make you a cup of tea, the kind of person who offers to go get a blanket for you in the winter when it's cold. That's the generous of heart is what I'm thinking here. And also, this is probably a message for you to be the same way, because you get what you give. So I think as you progress, there's like a message of generosity here as the part of the advice. And this might be something that you or your partner might not naturally want to give, because it's reversed. And reversed means that the energy of the card is blocked. I think this is what you probably either crave, or maybe crave or desire, or perhaps this is what you maybe aren't naturally doing yourself, and maybe it's something you might need to consider doing. I think that might be the message here, but this might be hard. And if this doesn't apply to you, it might apply to your future partner. So that's kind of the foundation I'm getting for the reading, like of the situation of romance in your life. Now, let's look at the specifics. I'm going to look back at your message really quick. Let's look at the energy of the two guys you were talking about. So I'll just use their initials. So we'll look at them in alphabetical order, and you'll know what this means. So we'll look at B, and we'll look at S. We'll look at B, and then we'll look at S. And then what I'll do is I'll draw a card for another person, for someone else, like as in to keep looking for someone else. So let me draw a card for B. Let me draw a card for S. And then let me draw a card for someone else. Okay. Here we go. So let's look and see what these three cards look like. Whoops. These are kind of interesting contrasts. Okay, so in terms of B, this is a pretty interesting card to get, because I only say this because I don't know you. So when you say that you've been single for nearly 2 decades, I think that might be that you are of a certain age. Maybe you're middle-aged, but I don't know if the nearly 2 decades of being single, if you're including when you were 3, 4, 5 years old, or exactly where that begins, where your counting begins for the 17 or 18 years that you mentioned. So maybe you're actually not that old. But I say this because the Page of Cups to come up for a person it can be a rather young energy. Pages are beginners. So the court cards that go pages, knights, queens, and then kings. So the cups is the card of emotions, and the element of water has to do deeply with emotions. So this would be someone who is not I don't want to say experienced emotionally. How should I say this? Might not be so mature on an emotional level. And I don't know if that means inexperienced in relationships, or perhaps just personality-wise hasn't grown very much in life on an emotional level. Now, he might not have grown yet because he could be very young. I don't know who this person is. Or it could just be that he's a big kid, and that might be the reason why he's not grown. So I see a definite emotional immaturity here. I think he would probably take care of himself, but, in terms of on the financial side, but I think emotionally he has some maturing he needs to do. Now the second person, we're calling him S for his initial. This is a card that usually in relationship readings means deceit, deception. So we have a person. This is swords. So this is the suit of the mind again, of anxieties, of logic, of reason. But if you look at the image here of the card, you have a man who's tiptoeing away from an encampment, and he's got five swords in his arms. And in the background here, which you may or may not be able to see on camera, there's a group of people in front of a fire gathered. So he's sneaking away with swords. So this card is an indicator that something sneaky is going on. Something is going on that is trying to be hidden. What we don't know is if it's for good reason or bad reason, and that's the work you have to do, because we don't know if he's stealing. For all we know, that the people he's stealing these swords from stole those for him originally in the first place. Maybe those are rightfully his. Maybe they're committing crimes or genocide or something, and he's stealing those swords for a greater good. We don't know exactly. But what we do know is the way it's happening is deceitful in some way. So this is pretty cautionary when we pull this for someone in a romantic reading. Now, the card that we pulled for a different person here, this isn't super. Every card has a light side and a dark side. So I feel like this is the miser card. This is someone who is stingy. I mean, the literal meaning here is someone who's stingy with money, right? Because he's got these coins. He's got 4 coins. This is the suit of pentacles. He's holding one tightly. He's got one on his head. He's got his feet on 2 others. And if you see where he's sitting, like there's a city far in the distance behind him. So he is so intent on holding tightly to these coins that he's actually isolated himself from the rest of society. Now, the coins, as I was mentioning here, I mean, the energy of the suit, the pentacles, these are all about being grounded, having a stable home environment, being able to take care of yourself. So someone who's stingy can do that, but then that's kind of all they've clenched onto. It's kind of like when you have a closed fist, you can't receive anything either. So you might have what you already have, but that means you can't receive more. By opening your hand, you can receive more. This would be the person who's actually closed off to receiving more. So this isn't exactly positive right now for picking a third party either. So this is the energy of the present moment. So I think the next thing we need to look at in this reading is, well, how can you change the energy? Because you have, tarot doesn't predict the future, by the way. Tarot looks at the energy of the way things are, and that means since you have free will, you have the ability to change your future. You have the ability to change tomorrow, in fact. So why don't we take a look well, actually, before we take a look generally, I'm just going to review your message to make sure there's not any details that I missed. So the thing I haven't talked about yet is that you said that you've been single so long, and every time you put your heart out, it's a disappointment. You also wanted to know, have you already met the person, or if he is still going to be crossing your path. So let's take a quick look at that. Let me draw 2 cards for that. Because we looked at the choices that you named and then someone else, but we didn't look at whether or not you know this person or don't know this person. So why don't we go ahead and look at the energy of that next. So here's a card for let's look at the energy of people that you already know. And now let's look at people that you don't already know. Okay. So people you already know, people that you don't already know. What I would say, if I just want to look at this like really on the surface level, this might be an indicator that the person that you already know is at the office, but it would be really hard to like make an office romance work. This one to me means that I feel like you might not want to do the work to actually try to find someone outside of your current circle. So let me explain. These are both reversed, by the way. So you've got a lot of reversals coming up on the horizon, right? These were kind of as time goes on, and then now these, like the potentiality. So I feel like you are really blocked right now. So the literal meaning of this card, it's the Eight of Pentacles. You've got a lot of pentacles about like being grounded, about just keeping your life stable, things like that. But this is a man who's working diligently on his craft, and he's kind of removed, again, he's removed from the city, and he is he's basically perfecting his craft. So to me, this could indicate, since we asked about what's the likelihood of you meeting someone in your current circle, I feel like it would be someone who's either someone who's very diligent about their work and craft and very conscientious. Maybe this is speaking to their personality, or it could just be literally, since it's about work, it could just be literally like, okay, there's some potential with someone that you work with. But there's going to definitely be some challenges in making that happen because it was reversed. So it might take a long time. It might, there might be resistance to engage in a romance with someone who's at the office because there's always there's gossip, and there might be policies against dating coworkers at some companies. At least there are. That's the case in the United States. I'm not sure where you are. So that's what I'm seeing there. Now, this was also reversed originally. Now, this is looking for someone else. To me, you've got two cards of exhaustion here, honestly. And this one's wands. This one's about your will. And so this is like the excess of will and passion here. So this is really about burden. And I think on the surface, your will is that you want to have a relationship because you're asking about it right now, right? So, however, I feel that what you want is a huge burden to you right now. And since it was reversed, I feel like that you're going to be blocked, right? There's something, you're being weighed down, right? Look at this guy carrying these heavy sticks, right? There's something that's going to be weighing you down, so that it's going to be hard for you to make it happen, to meet new people. And then also just the ability for you to meet new people, it came up, it's going to be, all of it's going to be blocked. It's going to be hard, it's going to be a struggle to remove the blocks here. The optimistic side of this card, though, is you see how awkwardly he's carrying all of the wands? Well, one of the reasons why he's doing that is because if you can see, each wand has new buds, new leaves growing on it. And by carrying them in such an awkward way, he is ensuring that there is future growth, right? The future growth, he's protecting the buds and the shoots of these wands. So in protecting them, there is hope in the future. But right now, it's looking like there's a burden that needs to be removed. He needs to put these things down. He needs to regroup. It sounds like you might need to do that. Now, let's look at some some advice. Like, let's look at what you should. Let's kind of get an energy read on what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and let's see just what comes up. So let's see what you should do, and then what you shouldn't do. Okay. Should do, shouldn't do. Okay, so these are kind of odd cards for this, but let's go for it anyway. So in this card, this is another card of swords, right? And this was the advice as to what you should do. So now, the scene that we have here is we have a scene of winners and losers. So there's a person here, and he's holding 3 swords. This is the 5 of swords, by the way. So again, it's one of the mind-oriented cards about reason, intellect, and rational thought. And then in excess, that becomes anxiety, depression, because anxiety and depression are problems of the mind when you're stuck in your mind. So this card is really about balance and about winners and losers. So you can see he clearly has just won a battle, but then the two figures in the background, they've lost. So like this one has this one's really small, but he basically has his head in his hands, and so he's probably crying, in fact, at having lost this battle. So usually what I say that this card means is that, you know, you have to be careful what you wish for, because when you win, there's a consequence, and then when you win, there's also a loser, and there's going to be someone who's very unhappy. So the things are definitely out of balance here, and you can kind of see that reflected in the way in the angular way that cards have been drawn in this card as well. And in the background is water too. So there's also, even though this is about air and about this is the suit of air, the swords, the presence of water is adding an emotional component to this card, even though it's not a cup. The cups are the cards of emotion. So that the water in the background is here to remind us that our intellectual decisions can have emotional consequences. Now, as an action to take, I would say what this is about is that I think you need to do something where you can feel like a success. So now I don't know if that means that it needs to be in the realm of romance, the topic of the reading, or maybe there's another way that you can think of something to do to bolster your confidence so that meeting new people doesn't seem like such a burden. So this would be, I guess, I think the solution here is, depending on what kind of personality type you have, if you think that journaling might help you, like if writing things down might help you get insight into your own thoughts and desires and help you work out your problems, I would say here as an action to take, well, where can you do something so that you feel like this man? You can feel the joy of victory, and you can feel that you're winning. And I think that this might give you some more confidence in your life to get out there and make these things happen, either people you already know at the office or people outside of the office. So if you wanted to focus on romance, what I would say would be like, maybe you need to do like some speed dating, or maybe you need to do an activity to get some experience, or like just something to have a successful date. So maybe a dating service, an online profile if you don't already have it, or just be vulnerable, ask your friends to introduce you to someone that they think might be good for you. But something so that you can have some sort of win. And if you can have a win, you can then feel the confidence that this man is feeling, and this might help you turn the energy around that's stuck up here. Now, on what not to do, this is the Four of Wands. So some people call this the marriage card. I usually don't. The reason why it's called the marriage card is this looks like a huppah, which is what they stand under in a Jewish wedding. But in essence, the real scene here, and let me, I have another deck here that's all in order so I can find a card for you to compare. So here's the Three of Wands. So the Three of Wands, if you look at the tarot as a journey between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and everything is a stage, what's just happened is that you've set a whole bunch of things into motion, and you now, these ships are sailing, and that was because of you. You set an adventure or an exploration in motion, and then now you're kind of waiting for the fruits of your labor to come back home. And this is being welcomed home after a journey, in a way, or after a not just a journey, but a journey in order to accomplish something. So this is sort of a joyous card welcoming you back and congratulating you. There's a party going on. There's some small people here in the background. So I would say what not to do here would be expecting marriage too quickly, expecting a relationship too quickly, expecting a success too quickly, since this is what we're not wanting to do here, right? You're not going to be getting married very quickly, I think, is what it wants to remind you. So I would say, you know, being a relationship reading here, the whisper of the marriage in this card that a lot of people see, I would say that whisper would be like, well, don't expect it too soon. This is what not to do. Don't jump into things. Don't celebrate a success too soon either. The other thing that comes up as a part of relationships is sometimes at the beginning things seem really great, but people forget that it takes a little while to get to know someone. So I think this is what not to do is don't jump into things too quickly. Don't expect a successful bond or a serious relationship to be too quick to develop. I think that's all I have to say about the cards that are down. I'm going to look at what you wrote to me one more time. I think that's all the cards I'm going to pull. And so let's take a look now at the card that you chose with that number and see how it ties in thematically with the whole reading here. Oh, it was the card I just showed you to explain this one. That's kind of interesting. Okay. I can't remember how the camera looks, so I'm just going to move everything over a little bit and to make sure that this is in frame here. So this is the Three of Wands reverse. So this is the card that you picked to sum up the reading. So I think this actually ties into to what you said. So you said, if I can just read your sentence again, but I just don't know. I think there's a typo here. I'm gonna try to repair it. But I just don't know why I've been single for so long, and every time I put my heart out, it's a disappointment. So the message of this card, as I was just saying, it's like this is about setting a voyage into motion, and then watching all of the operation take place, but it's reversed. So I think the theme and maybe the lesson here is that, okay, you are being blocked from setting the things in motion that you need to do in order to find a relationship. Now that you're blocked, I think we can just look back to the action that you're supposed to be taking here. The action is trying to find some ways to feel successful, to feel like you're winning, whether that be in terms of just like the act of creating romance, like by dating or whatnot, or just something that maybe you enjoy. It could be just anything to make you feel good, so that you have a spring in your step, and you have confidence when you're out there on a date. Maybe this has nothing to do with romance. This could be, I don't know, a success in a hobby, a success at work, a success in a personal endeavor, something so that you get that confidence and you feel good and you feel like a winner. And then you can maybe feel like you're in a place where you can actually set things into motion. Because it looks like because this is reversed, setting things into motion is what's going to be hard for you. Setting things into motion is what's going to be the struggle, or it's going to take a long time. So I think, to sum up, there's going to be some patience required because of all these reversals. Things are not going to be happening quickly in this area. You have some advice about what to do when things start to move. Don't jump into things too quickly. Really take your time, and don't celebrate, and don't think what's the cliche? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't think, just because the first month maybe is good that you should be hearing wedding bells or anything like that. And then try to use the advice that we talked about to get these blocks turned around and to open up the paths. I would say journal to figure out, how do we make a game plan for you so that you can feel like a winner and build up your confidence and give off the energy of someone who's successful and who can be successful in romance. And I think after you've maybe reflected on that for a while, examine how things have changed in your life, and then maybe a new reading might be in order. But I definitely wouldn't do a new reading on this topic for a while. Everything about this reading is saying that it's going to be a while. You're going to need to work on these things for a while before this energy shifts. So I think there's no point in doing another reading anytime soon until you've really reflected, journaled, and made a game plan for yourself to figure out how you can unblock some of this energy. I think that's about all I want to say. So let me wish you the best of luck, and I hope you find this helpful.